biodiversity friendly. Like I said, and I'll end with this, $1.2 trillion every year, and that's only going to grow, in changing the landscape around us and putting pressure on protected areas, outside of protected areas, inside of protected areas. If we don't work with them upstream and help them think about where they're putting those investments, how to green those investments, and then making sure that they're paying for services that we are providing, that the public sector and communities are providing through protected areas, it's the only way we can go forward and really think about financing protected areas in the long term through making sure that these remain the cornerstones of conservation and we embrace as many partners as we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Valerie. Gracias. Bueno, muy interesante lo que acabamos de escuchar. Evidentemente, sabemos en Latinoamérica que hay algunos puntos centrales que tenemos que resolver. Para empezar, los resultados de las evaluaciones de impacto ambiental siguen estando muy lejos de lo necesario y por lo tanto es difícil tener evidencias como para comprometer muchas veces a las empresas. Y por el otro lado, hacer mejores planes de negocios o desarrollo de cuáles son las tareas que tenemos que ejecutar dentro de las áreas protegidas sigue siendo un gran desafío por delante. Pero bueno, las malas noticias son que hay que trabajar mucho, las buenas es que hay unas oportunidades bien interesantes para seguir desarrollando estos esquemas. Un comentario antes de pasar la palabra a Sara Lucas del Centro de Derecho Ambiental de la WICN, es el tema que nos estamos moviendo desde un esquema muy desorganizado acerca de cómo financiar los costos de prevención en las áreas protegidas hacia un esquema cada vez más organizado y que finalmente el derecho terminará por recoger. Ahora en este punto Sara nos va a presentar los nuevos lineamientos que han salido de la WICN y tal vez eso nos ayude a entender cuál es el proceso de desarrollo en que estamos para estos principios de estructuración de áreas protegidas, comprendiendo también el financiamiento. Sara. Y luego vamos a intercambiar opiniones.
Hola a todos, good morning. I'm Sara Lucas, I'm from IUCN, but from the Environmental Law Center in Bonn. Well, it's also an honor for me to have my presentation after these three speakers. I mean, I've learned a lot in this last hour about financing. But I'm not really here to talk about pure finance, but I'm a lawyer, so I'm going to take like the legal approach of the topic. Just to say that we have been in the center. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
In the center, recently we've produced the guidelines for protected areas legislation. Actually, this is not a new product. It is an updated product. I mean, the first guidelines were produced in the 80s, but you know that protected areas legislation has evolved for the last 20 years, and it was really necessary to update them and to integrate new mechanism to be integrated in the legislation, but also to tackle emerging issues. So this was like a 3-year project. The Environmental Law Center led the development of the new guidelines, but it was also in cooperation with the Commission on Environmental Law and the World Commission on Protected Areas. We got a lot of inputs from I always forget the name, the Commission on Environmental and Economic and Social Policy, yeah, for the aspect of governance. So what we aim at with this guideline is really to provide the state-of-the-art information on PA law. So you have here, I don't know, a lot of pages. Yeah, 400 pages here. And then illustration through 15 case studies from Peru, Philippines, Australia, Canada, France. Because I moved. But I think that we're not the the translators, I'm sorry. And so 15 case studies on different type of legislation in different countries, but also about different types of protected area, like private protected areas co-managed, marine protected areas, etc. So the goal of the guideline is really to provide practical guidelines to legal drafters, but also like to all stakeholders involved in PA management. So this is what I said. The audience is technical, legal drafter, authorities, stakeholders, and the approach. I mean, we really wanted to have like a user-friendly approach. I know that sometimes, I mean, law is not like the sexiest topic ever, but we really try to make it user-friendly, easy to read, and I have to say that it's really good publication. So yeah, I will go really fast on this. I mean, the guidelines are structured in 4 parts. So one on the basic principles, the part 2 on governance approaches. The part 3 is divided into 2 chapters. Chapter 1 on generic elements for PA legislation. Chapter 2 on special issues for MPA. And the part 4 is on transboundary protected areas. So yeah, I don't think that I'm gonna the part 1 was really like the basic elements. The part 2 are on governance approaches. And actually, in these guidelines, what we wanted to do, it's really, we have like the traditional approach of PA management. So state-owned control, getting the funds from the government and everything. But in these guidelines, we really wanted to like provide a large array of options. So in terms of governance, it's not only governed by the state, but we wanted also to give the option of voluntary conservation management. So we talk about the indigenous and community conserved areas, private protected areas managed by NGO, by private entity like company or private landowners. And we deal also with co-management, so shared governments, private, public. The part 3 translate part 1 and part 2 into legal aspect. So it's really, the method was really to organize the topic for the legislation, to define the legislation based on law, acts, code, and decrees, and to identify what are the key legal provisions that have to be integrated. There are a lot of examples of international law, and also the guidelines is full of boxes of example on national legislation and lesson learned in different countries. And we have also like a special issue for voluntarily conserved areas, as I said. There is a special chapter on marine protected areas because it's a really, I mean, it's different. You cannot deal with marine protected areas as you deal with terrestrial protected areas. It's totally, I mean, marine features are different. We're talking about a very large space. When we talk about connectivity for terrestrial protected area, it's not the same as marine. I mean, marine is connected, but then you have to find a way. So, and there is also, we have also to take into consideration that for marine, it is governed by the convention of the UNCLOS. on the sea. So we have to take into consideration different requirements. The part 4 is also on transboundary protected areas. The national aspect of that are already developed in the first chapters. This chapter provides more information about the international aspects and about regional agreement that need to be developed for those protected areas. Okay, now I come to the point. In these guidelines, all throughout the guidelines actually, we have different development about financing PA. And I don't want to repeat what my colleague just said before, but this is also the point. We have like the traditional way to finance protected areas, so through the government funds, through the protected area revenues, from tourism and from users' fees. But it's also really important to take into consideration other types of sources of funding. So there are the external source of funds, like the private donation, the environmental funds. I think it was Jose Maria who mentioned that, and also the funds given by international donors. Other sources also environmental funds, and it includes different type of funds: endowments, sinking, and revolving funds. In the guidelines, we also point out that incentives for conservation are also really important, and market-based charges for goods and services and payments for ecosystem services are also different financing tools. So what I want to say is that we all talk about, okay, we need to have different financing instrument, but to make it possible, you also need to have like the legal environment to implement it. So it seems that in Peru and in Argentina, and Laos, it's possible to do that, but maybe in other countries, there's still like, the legislation is still old-fashioned, and they don't have the possibility to have new
frameworks.
Sorry?
Frameworks,
yeah. New tools for funds. So this is really what I wanted to say is in these guidelines for the marine protected areas also, you have to in your legislation you really have to integrate provision on finance and try to detail all these different tools to give the possibility to NGOs, to state-controlled PA or other, to have a different option and not go really wait for funds from government, because we know that it's not gonna last forever, and we really need to tackle other different tools. Yeah, and under the governance chapter, we also deal with land trust and the different criteria to establish land trust, etc. So yeah, I'm sorry, I had to do it a bit quickly because I also have to leave for other commitments with the Secretariat in the Congress. But I really invite you to have a look at the guidelines, and not only have a look, but take them also on the table. They are here in 3 different languages, French, English, and Spanish. But they're a bit heavy to carry, but we have also CDs. So yeah, this is from maybe the Bible. So if you want to have any information, just take it, and I think it's really helpful, and spread the word.
Muchas gracias, Sara, y tal vez una cosa que nos gustaría hacer en los últimos minutos que tenemos es finalmente escucharlos y ver cuáles son a criterio de ustedes los principales desafíos o las principales dificultades para involucrar al sector privado en sus países? Esta, al final del día, es la única pregunta que estamos tratando de responder desde la presentación de José María, con los interrogantes hacia el futuro, cómo hacerlo en el caso del proyecto de Argentina, de Patagonia Natural, la experiencia que nos dio Alberto con los desafíos que han tenido y que siguen teniendo. No es tan fácil seducir u obligar al sector privado para que se siente a contribuir. Y también lo que nos decía Valerie, porque si no tenemos nuestros deberes bien realizados, si no tenemos datos precisos, si no tenemos un business case, difícilmente logremos interesar al sector privado. Y en todo esto también lo legal tiene mucho que ver, porque las empresas requieren seguridad jurídica. Entonces, a la hora de realizar una inversión, precisan de tener claro cuál es ese marco. Entonces, si quieren animarse a agregar sus opiniones, muy bienvenidas van a ser. ¿Ok? Sí.
Bueno, primero las damas.
Ok, primero las damas. Yes. Go ahead.
Gracias. Yo soy Rosa Montañez, vengo de Fundación Natura Panamá, miembro de RedLA, que veo aquí muchas caras, amigos y colegas de la red. Manejamos 3 fondos ambientales, 2 de canje de deuda por naturaleza y el Fondo Ecológico de Panamá. Y justamente nos encontramos ahora en una etapa bien interesante, que es precisamente el tema de trabajar con el sector privado. Y con el sector privado de lo que son los chicos malos, la minería, están las hidroeléctricas, y en este caso hay un fenómeno inverso, son ellos los que se acercan en nuestro caso, a la fundación por el prestigio, la transparencia, la calidad de entregables, para que ojalá les administremos fondos. Y el reto en este momento en Panamá con relación a ese tema es que quien sea que trabaje con este sector privado tiene un costo de prestigio muy alto. Entonces es un poco lo que mencionaba Alberto, de cómo manejar esa relación de ese prestigio, que es el que precisamente hace que vengan estas empresas a querer que se manejen fondos con ellos, o más bien a ser socios, frente a toda una sociedad que además en el momento actual están totalmente en contra de esas actividades. Entonces ese es un tema aún no resuelto en el país, está ocurriendo actualmente, y luego nos lleva a otro tema que discutimos dentro de la red de RedLA, que es el impacto neto positivo. Entonces estamos en ese tema, pero igualmente eso lleva a una nueva escala de evolución de las organizaciones que trabajamos en financiamiento de conservación, sobre mayor conocimiento o un nivel de especialización técnica adicional a lo que tradicionalmente se había estado trabajando. Y esa es un poco la experiencia o el momento en el que nos encontramos en Panamá.
Muchas gracias.
Bon, merci. Moi, je parle en français. Je suis du Mali. Et effectivement, moi, j'ai été très intéressé par ces différentes approches qui ont été présentées, surtout la participation du secteur privé. Comme il a été effectivement dit, le problème se situe d'abord comment avoir des données qualitatives et quantitatives pour faire intéresser le secteur privé à la participation, d'abord à la conservation même des ressources qui sont là, et aussi la protection de la biodiversité. Parce que dans de nombreux cas, pour même commencer le processus, nous, les structures, surtout les ONG nationales, ont des problèmes pour d'abord la mobilisation. Donc l'approche est très bonne, mais quand même il faut avoir de l'expertise, collecter des données convaincantes pour réellement amener le secteur privé à adhérer. Parce que nous sommes tous d'accord que le secteur privé, dans la plupart des cas que nous venons dire ici, c'est des entreprises. Donc, il faut savoir montrer le coût d'investissement et le bénéfice qu'ils vont tirer. Effectivement, c'est un problème. Si réellement il y a des gens qui sont réellement intéressés à nous aider dans ce cas, on est réellement disponible et on est convaincu que c'est une approche de ce genre qui puisse réellement aboutir à la gestion durable des ressources. Merci.
Muy interesante el comentario y en todo caso me parece adecuado relacionarlo con lo que presentaba hoy Valerie, porque realmente el primer insumo que es necesario para poder desarrollar este diálogo con el sector privado es tener información de calidad. Valerie lo remitía a los resultados de los estudios de impacto ambiental. Entonces la pregunta sería, ¿no será que la mejor inversión o la primera inversión debería asignarse a tener mejores evaluaciones de impacto ambiental en nuestros países para, con esa información muy clara y precisa,